What's going on, guys? Just wanted to talk a little bit today about how to build muscle in your 50s and get stronger in your 50s or beyond that. This is one of the things that, I think it's very easy to fall into this idea and accept this idea that as we get older, we have to settle for less. We can't get stronger. We can't, train hard. We're not supposed to push ourselves. We can't build muscle the same way that we did when we were younger. It's like it's easy to keep settling for thinking that we have to decline and get worse as we get older. Nothing could be further from the truth. Now I will say that, when you're older, you might have to do things a little bit different. It's like you have to be a little more strategic with how you do things. But, it doesn't mean that just because we're older, we can't get stronger, get fitter, get leaner, build muscle, every bit as we can when we're younger. It just means that we have to pay attention to things, dial things in a little bit more and do things a little bit differently. But it is definitely possible. So let's go through. I'll share like five strategies that I find are really, really helpful and very important things to consider and to take into account. So number one is to start where you are. And this is a big one. I see this happen with a lot of guys. Haven't trained in a lot of years. Maybe, back in the day in college, your college years, you were like an athlete, baseball, football, whatever. You can run, for like 2 miles a day every day. You did push-ups every morning. It was like nothing. But life changes a little bit as we get older. We have work obligations and family commitments, and maybe you're running from meeting to meeting during your days and dealing with clients, and you've got project deadlines that are happening and a lot of stress you deal with. And then you've got the family commitments and things that happen, then before you know it, it's kind of like you sacrifice your health and your body and, how you feel, your energy, right? You're sacrificing that because you have bills to pay and a family to support. And before you know it, it's like you put on weight, you're out of shape, you don't feel good anymore, and you want to get back in shape. But the worst thing that we can do is try to pick up where we left off back in the day and do the things that we were doing back then without realizing that we've got to start where we are, So, whether you're looking on YouTube and finding like exercises and workouts or the fitness magazines or things like that, it's like you got to be very careful about just jumping right in, because up here, it's like, we can think that we're ready to go. Up here, we still feel like and see ourselves as we were, like those stud athletes that we were way back in the day, without realizing physically things have changed a little bit. And so we need time to kind of work ourselves back in and back up to a level of fitness and conditioning rather than just jumping in. So avoid like the extreme workouts that you see, these crazy things that we see on YouTube and in the fitness magazines, and just start where you are. It's like know where you are and start building from there. You can always progress as you go. But be careful of just like trying to jump right back in to a level that you were at way back in the day, because it can have a lot of negative repercussions. More cons than pros, more negatives than pluses with that. Second thing is to master the fundamentals first. So look, building strength and muscle, at any age, it doesn't change. Like what you need to do, in terms of like exercises, it doesn't change just because you're older or, because you want a bigger chest or back or legs or whatever it is. You don't need special exercises. It's like the fundamentals really do work. There's a reason why like bodybuilders and strength athletes, built their physiques and built strength and power with the fundamentals. Like, it goes back to the basics. I call them the F6 movement. F6, stumbling all over my words, the F6 movements, if I can get that out right. But it really comes down to the basic things. So if you're going to get stronger, if you're going to build muscle at any age, you need to master squatting. You need to master hinging, like deadlifting. You need to master single leg movements, so lunging and stepping. You need to master pushing and pulling, and you need to master rotation. And the reason why is because, you might be thinking, well, I can't squat anymore because maybe your knee's messed up. Maybe you can't deadlift because you've got, back pain. Maybe you can't do like bench pressing or overhead presses anymore because you have shoulder issues going on. And I get it. As we get older, a lot of times we're dealing with nagging aches and pains, and these things happen. But it doesn't mean, number one, it doesn't mean that, we can't do movements or maybe variations of these movements. And I'll tell you why. You can't avoid all of these movements anyway, because these are the movements that we do. Every single movement that we do is one of those 6 movements or some kind of variation of it. So while you can avoid squatting and doing things in the gym or bench pressing and things like that, you can't avoid these movements in your everyday life because they're there. We have to get up and in and out of chairs. We have to get in and out of our car. We sit down, stand up, like that's squatting. We have to bend over and pick things up, whether it's out in the yard, in the garage, around the house. Like that's deadlifting, that's hinging. We walk on single legs. We sometimes have to kneel down. Sometimes we have to go up and down stairs. That's single leg movements, right? We have to push and pull. There's all kinds of things that we have to do, and we can't avoid these movements. We can't protect ourselves by living in a bubble and just trying to avoid them, thinking that that's the safe way to go. Now, I'm not advocating that you do anything that causes pain and that hurts yourself, but there is a way to do these movements. So maybe it's just a different variation that you need. Maybe you just need to change it up a little bit, change the angle of the movement or the implement that you use, right? It's not like squatting has to be done with a barbell, or deadlifting and has to be done with a barbell, or that you have to bench press. You don't. There's all kinds of different variations that you can use of these movements, right? So find the ones that work best for your body, that you can tolerate, that you can perform safely, and that don't cause pain or injuries. So, but you've got to master these basics first, because that's what strength and muscle are built on. It's the foundation, and there's no getting around it. So that's that. Number 3, leave energy in the tank. So this is just like, I see it too many times where it's like when we go to work out, for whatever reason, it's easy to get ourselves in this mindset that we got to go all out, balls to the wall, right? And kill ourselves in the gym. It's almost like this idea that, this is how it has to be. And like if you've ever played sports, if you're ever on sports teams or things like that, that's kind of like an easy mentality to get. You got to do your best. You got to go all out to win. And sometimes I think we can take that mindset with us in our training and think that we got to go all out, balls to the wall all the time. And, there's a time and a place to push yourself. I'm not saying you don't push yourself and challenge yourself, but, at, 52 years old, I rarely am pushing myself at 100% all out intensity. Once in a while, and maybe on a certain exercise, I might do that, but it's very rare. Most of the time, all we need to get ourselves to stronger and to build muscle is like an 8 to a 9 at the most out of 10 intensity. Like you can do great and get great results with an 8 out of 10 intensity on most of your exercises. And the reason why too is because it allows us to make the gains that we want. It allows us though to be able to recover from the training that we do. I mean, if you can't recover, I have a saying, if you can't recover, your results will suffer. Recovery is everything. You don't build strength and muscle during your workouts, you build it during the recovery process after. And if you're pushing yourself 100% all the time, you can't recover from that stuff, especially as we get older. Our ability to recover becomes a little bit less. It takes us longer. It happens slower. It's not like it was back in the day where we can get away with doing some crazy shit and still, be ready to go the next day. Like it's not like that anymore. So we really have to pay attention to, what we're doing, how we're doing it, and how hard we are pushing ourselves. But, leave a little bit of energy in the tank. So at an 8 out of 10 intensity level, that still allows you to leave a little bit in the tank so that you can recover, and also so that you've got energy to do the things you need to do throughout your day. If you've got work to do, if you've got to meet with like clients, you got project deadlines, you need to be able to focus on what you're doing. And if you're wiped out because of your training, you're stiff, you're sore, mentally you're not there because you spent all that energy in your training, you're not going to have anything left over for things like that, or playing with your kids and spending time with your family, right? So, leave a little bit of energy in the tank. Number 4, more is not better. Again, a lot of times we think that we need more. If a little is better, if a little is good, then more is better, right? And again, it's kind of like an athlete mentality where, we got to push harder, we got to do more, we got to practice more. And, as we get older, more is not always better. What I like to do a lot of times is, instead of doing more, is I get more with less. And we can do that by maximizing our focus, using the proper intensity, making sure that our technique is solid, right? How we perform our movements, and improving the quality of what we do rather than the quantity. So more is not always better. And then number 5, finally, is consistency. It doesn't matter if we do the best workout on the planet or train as hard as we can for a couple days or a couple weeks, and then we don't maintain it, right? And then we stop. We stop and we start. Few days on, few days off. Couple days here, week off there. It's not going to do any good. Consistency is always the key. And so the way to maintain consistency is I look at 3 things. I look at enjoyability, number 1. That means I'm always looking at doing what I enjoy. It might not be necessarily scientifically the best, most effective thing to do. But if the most effective thing to do is something I don't enjoy doing it, I'm not going to do it very long. We don't do the things that we don't enjoy any longer than we feel we have to. And so, I might be doing something that maybe scientifically is a little less effective, but it's going to be more effective for me because I'm going to be able to do it more over the long term, more consistently, because I enjoy it. So the second thing is measurable, right? We have to have things that are measurable, meaning that whatever we're doing has got to produce the results we want, and we need to be able to track it so we can see those results. Results lead to motivation. Think about that. What fuels you more and gets you fired up to keep going than to see that what you're doing is working? So there's got to be results, right? You've got to be able to see results, track them, and what you're doing has to produce those. And then finally, sustainability is the last one. It's like I said in the first thing here, if what you're doing, if you're doing some extreme workout or trying to get to the gym 6 days a week, or training for 90 minutes, a pop, or doing workouts that are just extreme or too taxing on you, they're too hard, too long, too much, it's not going to be sustainable. You might be able to do it for a couple weeks or a couple months, but eventually you're going to burn out. Your energy reserves are going to get wiped out. You won't be able to recover from it, probably won't enjoy it, and you're not going to be able to sustain it. It's what good is it to do something that you cannot sustain long term? Doesn't make sense. So, whatever it is that you do, choose to do, make sure that you can do it long term. Sustainability. I always look at what I'm doing and ask myself, is what I'm about to do here something that I can maintain for the rest of my life if I want to? All right. And if the answer is no, I can't do this long term, then I don't do it. So that is it. I mean, just because we're older doesn't mean that we have to give up on our fitness goals. It doesn't mean that we can't get stronger. It doesn't mean that we can't build muscle. It doesn't mean that we have to accept being weaker, living with pain and injuries just because we're older, putting on weight and feeling like crap all the time. We don't have to. We can get better as we age. We just have to do things a little bit different. So I hope that this helped. And in the meantime, feel free, use these strategies. Let me know what your thoughts are, and I will talk to you soon. Take care.